Special meeting of the Public Works Committee. Can I get a roll call? Here.
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 Great. Moving to the agenda. Any amendments or changes? If not, we'll see good by acclamation. Moving to citizen comment. Anybody from the audience can address the board. Come on up. If you can just give us your name and address.
Yes, my name is Clayton Keaty. Address is 2654 Dorothy Avenue. And I also own the property at 8611 Manchester. I wanted to address the flooding concerns on Ruth that are ongoing. I listened to your last meeting, and I was feeling like you weren't grasping the extent of the flash flooding that's happening in that area. So I had brought some photos to share with you guys, if I could give them to you.
Oh, sure.
So these were photos of the May 14th event, where we had some quite amount of rain, and there was about 3 to 4 foot of water on Ruth at the bowl right there. And I know in the last meeting you guys had stated that they had done some rework in June, and I saw what they had done. There was some ponding issues after rain, which they resloped the street there so it would get to the sewers, but that didn't really address the 3 to 4 foot of water we have in these large rain events. And it doesn't only affect Ruth. So it starts at Ruth at the bowl, then it comes around the old lawn care building and inundates the yard of the house on Ruth. Then it comes to my house, Dorothy, and starts to inundate the yard, plus my building right there. It floods the parking lot completely. There's photos of that too. It actually was inside the building during that event. I have some pictures of the existing conditions there. You can see the inlets they were kind of, when they did the rework on Ruth there, they really didn't do a lot to reshape those inlets there, and they're very small. Like one's buried kind of deep in there, and there's about this much space for water to get through. And this happens multiple times. It's not a one-time deal. It's like every time we get these large rain events, it fills up all 4 of our properties right there. And I can't really speak for lawn care or whoever owns that now, but I'm sure it's filling up in their back area too. You just can't really see it. I also included a couple pictures of Dorothy. The same problem is happening there at the bottom of Dorothy, where it's a bowl. It's coming down Dorothy, and it's just overtaking that bowl, and it's filling it up, and then it's dumping it down into your tunnel. So there's like 2 photos, I think, there of the water just has overtaken it, and there's a waterfall down to the tunnel of rainwater going through there.
And these are from May 14th, it looks like?
Yeah, they're all dated on the back. I wrote them in Sharpie. And then I had a couple other things that I have concerns about with the property that's at 8615 Manchester, which I think the MoDOT owns, but the city will be inheriting and then gifting it to, or selling it to Green Street. The only access is through my property right now, and there's gonna be a point in time while you guys own that, I've let KCI use my entrance, but I would like to know a plan of what's gonna happen when Brentwood takes it over, and they need to maintain the lot.
You said 8615 Manchester?
And 19, the old lock shop, American Lock and Key.
Oh, okay.
And lastly, I'm also concerned there's 2 photos there. They're bringing in a lot of fill, which is going to also impact my property because the flooding spreads out onto their lot too. And if they spread all that fill out there, it's just going to consolidate the flooding on my property. So that's what I have for you guys.
Yeah, I would, I mean, anybody else is welcome to respond. I know, we have been talking about it, and I appreciate you paying attention to the meeting that, we do have this on our radar, and we are focused on it, especially the way those new inlets are shaped and the size of them. I know we've pulled up the standard to make sure that they're the right, things like that. This being May, I do know that I think they've gone back and reworked them a little bit. And I think KCI was still working on those to finish that up. So I think, I'd be happy to give you a response and talk to the staff and let you know where we are on that after the meeting. Do you mind if we keep these photos as well? Okay, great. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move into just report of the committee chair. I just, two things, like to welcome Sullivan to Public Works. No matter what the other committees say, this is the funnest and the best committee. Everybody knows that, it's a fact. And then the September, we were gonna have a Public Works meeting on the 14th, September 14th. We are gonna reschedule that, and the reason is because MSD, the topic we're gonna talk about tonight, is having an open house at the same time. And I think it's important that all of the elected officials are there to see exactly what our residents are hearing. I mean, we're residents too, to see what this large project is all about. We will be rescheduling that for September 20th at 6 p.m., so it'll be Wednesday the following week. That's it. Alderman Tice?
I just have one thing to follow up from a conversation that we had last week about, or last meeting about code enforcement. There was a York Village neighborhood meeting last night, and there was enthusiasm for code enforcement. So I just wanted to pass that along to staff.
Thanks, Nancy. Alderman Gould?
No report.
Sullivan? Okay. All right, we'll go into new business. So MSD. Talk about the Project Clear project.
So yeah, I'm going to show you a quick introduction. Staff has been meeting with MSD over the past 2 to 3 months about this new project that they in design. If I believe they're about 60% design completion, which gets them in a position where they're ready to have a public meeting, which is scheduled for a couple weeks, as Alderman Wegge said. So we asked MSD to come tonight, so you guys could kind of get the preview of what they're discussing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sean Stone with MSD.
Great.
Very much. Let me get this thing queued up. Got to get into presentation mode. Yeah, my name is Sean Stone from the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, or MSD Project Clear. I want to start by thanking you all for having us out here tonight to talk about this really important project. We're glad you're taking an interest in it. Quick agenda of what we're going to go through tonight, a little bit of overview of who we are. We'll hit on some of the projects we've got going on in and around Brentwood. Then we'll really dive into this specific project we're here to talk about tonight, including restoration, and take any questions you have. Several people from MSD and HDR are here tonight to answer those questions. Pretty much any question you have about this project, we ought to be able to answer, and if not, we'll get your information and we'll get back to you with an answer. So moving ahead, MSD Project Clear. We are a government utility. We were formed by the voters in 1954. We are empowered by the state constitution. 6-member board of trustees governs us, 3 of those appointed from the city of St. Louis, 3 from the county. 2 utilities that are separate for us, wastewater and stormwater. We provide those services to all of St. Louis City and about 90% of St. Louis County, basically everything east of 109. That's a big area, 500 plus square miles and 1.3 million people. That stormwater service is largely limited to operating and maintaining the system that exists. The wastewater program is much bigger, has a lot of major improvement work going on right now, including this project, the lion's share of this project we're here to talk about tonight. That wastewater program includes 7 treatment plants with a daily capacity of up to almost 800 million gallons. The average flow is about half that at 350. About 10,000 miles of sewers underneath us that we are operating and maintaining, making us the 4th largest sewer system in the United States. Here, and as I prepare to transition, this map shows Brentwood and some of the projects we've got going on here and around the edges. The ones we'll be focusing on tonight is that pink writing. And here to talk about that next is Patricia Pride, who from our engineering team, who knows this project inside and out.
Thanks, Sean.
As Sean mentioned, my name is Patricia Pride. I'm the MSD project manager for this particular project, and I am in the engineering group. I want to go over the map just a little bit to talk about the upcoming projects in your area. The black dashed line that you see around the project area is the City of Brentwood outline. Currently, we have 3 projects programmed for the future below the City of Brentwood that touch the outside edges or the border of the City of Brentwood. So I want to start with the green one, the Upper River to Pear and River to Pear Tributary Storage Tunnel. You see it to the left in green. Its construction year, is 2032. Next, we have the Lee May Public I&I Reduction Project, which construction is estimated in 2027. And also the Webster Groves Trunk East Sanitary Relief, whose construction is in 2026, and it is in the purple, and it touches that bottom area there for the City of Brentwood. And I do understand from our other project managers that we're currently working with city staff to phase this project so that we will not interfere with the development planned in that area for the future. Now I want to touch on the projects that are within the city boundaries. The first one is up north. It's Strassner Avenue Sanitary Relief. Its construction is 2026. I'm going to skip over CSO Mary Avenue for now. And the next one is Hampton Creek Sanitary Relief Project. Construction year is also 2026. You see it just barely in the blue. There's a small portion of it remaining in the City of Brentwood boundary. And the larger project that we're here to talk about today, as Sean mentioned, is in pink. It's the CSO Mary Avenue project. We're here today to talk to you about the CSO Mary Avenue project, Phase 2. Again, my name is Patricia Pride. Also here with us is Erin Geralds. She is with the HDR engineering firm, and she was hired by MSD to design this particular project. We're going to start with the project overview, but before we dive into the project, I want to talk a little bit about the early Brentwood Bound Partnership. When MSD was first introduced to the Brentwood Bound Partnership, we saw areas where we could work together. Essentially, at that point, we moved into an agreement where the City of Brentwood agreed to allow their contractor to construct the downstream ends of our projects for 2 of our projects. The first project was CSO Mary Avenue Phase 1, which was constructed with the Flood Mitigation Phase 1 project. The second project was the Hampton Creek Sanitary Relief Phase 1A, which was constructed with the Flood Mitigation Phase 2 project. We also coordinated with the city to relocate our existing Deer Creek trunk sewer to allow the elevation and grade changes necessary to complete the flood mitigation projects. With all that said and done, the projects are completed, and at this point, we do not have a need, our MSC does not have a need to come back into the park area, the Brentwood Bound area, for any additional significant construction work. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Erin Geralds, where she will get into the specific details for CSO Mary Avenue Phase 2.
Hello and good evening. My name is Erin Geralds and I'm with HDR. I'm working closely with MSD on this project, the CSO Mary Phase 2 project. One of the main goals of this project is to eliminate overflows in the area. So MSD entered a consent decree with the Environmental Protection Agency, and as such, they are required to eliminate the CSOs or the overflows in the area. Oftentimes you'll hear me call these overflows CSOs or combined sewer overflows, and that's just a term to help further define the type of overflow that we're talking about. Specific to this project will be eliminating one overflow, and that is located south of Manchester Road at the downstream end of the project. In addition to the elimination of that overflow, this project is also going to provide increased capacity within the existing infrastructure or sewers within the Brentwood or the City of Brentwood area. Those sewers including both the wastewater or the sanitary sewers and the stormwater sewers in the area. In addition to increasing capacity, it will also help reduce the basement backups in the area. And like mentioned before, it will also help reduce the overflow or eliminate the overflow. This project includes about 9,850 feet of wastewater pipe, in addition to 3,750 feet of storm sewer pipe, ranging in diameters from 8 inches to 36 inches in diameter. This project will also, as mentioned again, it will eliminate one of the overflows. The benefits of this project, in addition to eliminating the overflow, is that it will provide or reduce the number of basement backups in the area, and because we're removing the overflow, it will also provide cleaner waterways. Currently, we're in the design phase of the project, and while we are working through the design phase, we've been reaching out to a variety of different stakeholders. We have reached out and met with the city of Brentwood. In addition to the city of Brentwood, we've also met with the school districts, the Brentwood School District in the area. Specifically, we talked with them about the Brentwood High School, McGrath Elementary, and Mark Twain Elementary, all of which will be indirectly impacted by this project. So they are well aware of this project coming up. As we move forward in design, the next step is to have the public meeting that was mentioned earlier. It is scheduled for September 14th, which is a Thursday at 6 p.m. Residents or property owners within the project area received a letter, a notification letter, that let them know of the upcoming public meeting. It will be virtual, and it provides them information on how they can register in order to attend this virtual meeting. In addition to that notification letter, they also received a high-level property or a map of the property or of the project area, and I'm going to show you that. Perfect. So this is very similar to what they received when in that letter. To give you some bearings, you can kind of see that pink star kind of in the middle there. That is City Hall. That's where we're sitting right now. And then you can see Brentwood Boulevard going north and south or up and down on the page. Lawn Avenue to the north, Litzinger Road there in the middle, and then Manchester Road towards the bottom of the page. And at the very bottom of the page, you can see that green pipe, and that is the overflow that's going to be removed as a part of this project, or the CSO. Also on this figure, there are no existing pipes shown on this figure. The only pipes shown are the new pipes associated with this Phase 2 project. The red lines indicate the new sanitary or wastewater pipes, and the blue lines indicate the new storm sewer pipes that will be included as a part of this project. So as I said, we're working through the design right now, and we'll be working to move into the next portion of this project, which will be the easement acquisition period. That's estimated to take about 2 years, and during that time, MSD right-of-way agents will reach out to different property owners in which we will need to have access in order to complete the construction of the project. Once that is done, then we will finalize the design of this project, and then it will go out to bid and a contractor will be selected. Once the contractor is selected, construction will begin, and construction is anticipated to start in the summer of 2026 and last about 3.5 years. Moving into the next slide, you'll see a very similar figure to what we were just showing you, but we want to talk a little bit more about the key points or project specifics. First and foremost is the CSO removal, as Patricia had mentioned. In partnership with the City of Brentwood, the Phase 1 portion of this project has already been constructed, and the intent was so that when we came back for the Phase 2 part, we would not have to go into the Brentwood-bound park area and cause any disruption. So as a part of the CSO removal, as part of this Phase 2 project, there will be no park disruption in that area. As you know, this is a very large project. It covers a lot of the city of Brentwood, and know that the intent is not to do it all at once. It's going to be done in phases. And so the term that we use for constructing in phases is sequential restoration. And so what that means is essentially, the contractor is going to be required to complete a particular area before moving on to the next parts. They're not going to be in all places all at one time. The clouded areas that you see there, the green, the purple, and the orange, are examples of what that sequential restoration might be like. In addition to the sequential restoration, as a part of this project, there are going to be some road closures. There's 2 main types of road closures that we will have. The daily minor interruption type of a road closure. Those are the types where when the contractor is working to do the construction, the road may temporarily be closed during the day during working hours, but upon completion of the working hours that day, that will be plated and opened back up and allowed for traffic to continue on. Then there will be the ones that are more specific road closures, and I'll talk about those a little bit more in the next slide. As with construction, there are going to be impacts to the residential areas. Driveway access may be impacted, but know that the contractor is required to reach out to the property owners as construction comes closer to their property. They're required to give them a good amount of notification before doing so, or working in that area, so that they have time to work through the driveway access impacts. When the contractor is selected, the contractor will be required to provide a traffic plan, and they'll be required to work with the City of Brentwood to make sure that they are meeting the City of Brentwood's requirements. Dust control will also be required per the city ordinance. In addition to pavement replacement and the working hours, they will be required to follow the City of Brentwood requirements. Be impacted as a part of this project as well. We did provide last week to the City of Brentwood a set of plans that highlighted the trees that will be impacted in the area. We worked through that. The last thing I wanted to mention on this slide is the Rogers Parkway area that's located in the median between Mary and Dorothy Avenues, specifically north of Florence Avenue. That particular park area is a Section 6F or 4F designated parkland. And what that means, we've been working with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources State Parks Group. And in order to meet their requirements to construct this project, MSD will need to work with the City of Brentwood and enter a license agreement. Now I want to go to the next figure that's going to kind of give a blown up view or a zoomed in view of that green clotted area that's currently shown on the slide. So you can again see City Hall right at the top of that figure, Litzinger Road there, and it's the CSO or the overflow that's being removed as a part of this project in the lower right corner. You can also see Manchester Road and Brentwood Boulevard. We're going to be doing some tunneling in this area. There's two different types of construction that we're going to be doing, so tunneling is one of those ways. As again mentioned previously, you can see the CSO. It will, as part of phase one, it was put in place so that we wouldn't have to go in there and disrupt it a second time. So as part of the phase two project, there will be no park disruption in that Brentwood Bound Park area. Specifically, I want to talk about the road closures that are color coordinated by the dots that are shown there on the screen. The first one I wanted to note is the purple dot on the middle right side of the screen. It's the intersection of Florence Avenue with Mary and Dorothy Avenues. During that road closure, Mary and Dorothy traffic will be able to resume. What will be limited is the crossing of traffic by Florence Avenue across that intersection with Mary and Dorothy Avenue. The second road closure that I wanted to mention is the Litzinger Road closure. It's indicated by the green dot at the top of the screen. And both Litzinger Road closure and the Florence Avenue closure are associated with the tunneling construction that's going to occur in that area. The last one I wanted to mention is the Madge Avenue road closure, and that is indicated by the orange dot on the screen. It's on the left side of the figure in the middle there. And traffic exiting Brentwood Boulevard would not be able to enter onto Madge. That's what that road closure would entail. Know that with these road closures, emergency access will be maintained throughout the duration of the construction project. This is just an example, a couple of pictures of what construction might look like before, during, and after construction. We know that the construction is going to be impactful, but know that upon completion of construction, the intent is to return the project site back to its pre-construction condition, if not improved. I think we're ready to take questions, but before we do that, I did want to mention at the bottom of the screen there, which you can see the project-specific website. It's msdprojectclear.org/12140. That 12140 is the CSO Mary Avenue Phase 2 specific project number that MSD has. If you go to that website, it has additional information on this project. It provides the information for registering for the upcoming project or public meeting. You can also ask questions there. And know that as the project continues to develop, the information will continually be updated as it comes in. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Anyone have questions? Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused on if you go to slide 9, the overflow that is to be removed, isn't that in the park? I mean, it seems like that's a pretty significant structure just to the north of our new retention lake, right?
It is. So the structure is already constructed, and it's a big concrete box structure that's below ground. And then there is a concrete pad that is constructed. And then there is a paved concrete road. It's a pathway, but it's kind of like a road that has been built to be able to withstand truck traffic when necessary. And so when we are ready to remove that CSO, the truck will enter from Manchester Road onto that concrete road, and it'll make its way to the concrete pad where the diversion structure is located. And the hatches that are already constructed, they will open those. And there is a metal plate that is down there that they will need to detach, and they will need to hook onto and lift out to remove it. And so what that will allow, what will happen from that is that the flow that normally goes straight through the structure, it will then be able to overflow and go to the tunnel project, the Deer Creek Sanitary Tunnel Project. So by lifting that plate off of there, it will allow the system to function as it is intended.
Okay, so what will happen to the current outflow pipe that's there now? Is that,
Sure, yeah, so the creek restoration that's occurred there, right now, that pipe that kind of dumps into the creek right there, that is the CSO. And so what is going to happen as a part of this project, or that's the overflow of the CSO. And as a part of this project, that is going to become a storm sewer. So what we're doing is we're taking all of the sanitary flows off of that pipe,
okay,
except for the rainwater, the stormwater. And so upon completion of this project, that will be the storm sewer. So it will continue to be able to flow into the creek, but it will no longer be associated with wastewater.
Got it, understood. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense when it is being removed from the wastewater, not necessarily removed from functionality at all. Okay,
Yeah, and I failed to mention too that there is construction to the west of the Brentwood bound area. That is 8702 Manchester Road. It is the Maurice Enterprises property, and they were one of the stakeholders that we did meet with, and they are aware of the project. That's where the interceptor is located, and so that will be abandoned as well, and that interceptor is associated with the removal of the CSO.
okay. And then, I've got a lot of questions on the Rogers Parkway. Can you explain the tunneling? So am I to assume that what we see in the purple is, or along Rogers Parkway there, that's not all surface disturbance? That's all, is that going to be tunneling underneath?
Correct. Yes. So we've worked through this project trying to minimize it to minimize the impacts to that particular area. So the intent is to tunnel it, which essentially means that we're going to have one big hole in one location and one big hole in another location, and then the pipes are going to be tunneled underneath with no surface disruption between those two holes.
Okay.
So
You don't have what I'm looking at in
we
your.
do, but it's
I was trying to bring it up for you.
I think it's a hidden slide.
it's a hidden slide.
That's probably why.
So let's see here. Yeah, I was just trying to do that, but yeah, we do have it. Just give me a moment. See. Oh, okay, I know what Patricia did here. There we go. Gonna.
Maybe a restriction because you're using a web browser to
Yeah, I think that
access
might
it.
be it.
It's
'Cause I don't
probably
know
it.
if I can auto two hidden
Yeah, we have the printout,
It's essentially,
or it was in our,
It's in your
it was in our
mailbox.
mailboxes, sorry. I saw it, as I was walking in, I got my mail.
I usually get it when I leave, so it's not helpful during a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we can,
oh, that's okay. Yeah, so I can talk through that figure that you have there. So it's essentially, it's very similar. We can work off of this one and kind of use this as reference to what you're seeing. So to give you some guidance on what the figure on the screen is in comparison to what you're looking at, you can see that purple dot where the Florence Avenue and Mary and Dorothy Avenue intersection is. So that is the downstream point at which you're looking at on that figure. And that is where our first tunneling shaft is located, and the reason for the road closure that's there. The intent is to put that shaft kind of in the middle there so that we don't disrupt traffic on Mary and Dorothy. Certainly, you know, we're for the residents as well as the school in the area. So that would be our first shaft. The second shaft is kind of where you see, as you continue north there, you'll see like a kink in the pipe, a change in angle. That would be the second shaft. So we would be tunneling from the Florence and Mary Dorothy Avenue intersection to that second point. And then we would be tunneling from that point to where you see that 90-degree bend closer to where Litzinger Road occurs. And then there's a fourth tunnel shaft, and that's where the green dot's at, where Litzinger Road would be closed. And so those are shafts. Those are the surface disruptions that would occur. And in between those points, there would be no surface disruption.
and then, so is it safe to assume that any mature trees or anything that's going along, that is along Rogers Parkway it's going to be tunneled under, and we shouldn't need to remove those trees?
I believe so. So if you look at that figure you're looking at, I believe there's some purple shading on there. So that is the anticipated construction corridor for those shafts. So as long as it's outside of that shaded purple area, then it should not be disrupted.
Okay.
The contractor will be required to stay within those purple shaded areas.
'Cause right where that tunnel is, we just planted some very new trees. My house is right across the street, actually. It's almost right in front of that. And then there's some pretty big mature trees at the end there that would be unfortunately right in the middle of that. Likewise, there's probably some up here at Litzinger. So that lighter purple, does that mean that entire section's going to be ripped up, or is that's just where the overflow of your digging the tunnel or digging the shaft will be?
So I believe I think it's either blue or black. There's a rectangle shape on there.
Yes.
And that would be the shaft location. So
Okay.
that's the portion that the contractor will be digging up, and there will
Okay.
be surface disruption. The remainder of the shaded area is for construction laydown. So the contractor would not be digging in that area,
Okay.
but they would be using it for their construction purposes.
Okay.
And Patricia has some.
Well, yeah, just as a short note, as far as MSD is concerned, we consider everything within the TCE to be disturbed. And the trees would likely not survive, and we would reimburse the city along with our previous plan for the loss of those trees.
And the TCE is the lighter purple shading that's here, not the full?
Correct, just the lighter shaded areas.
Okay. And then the other question that I have, it relates to like when you say road closures, you know, that intersection, as you all probably are aware, had a lot of significant construction over the past couple of years. And that Florence, Mary, and Dorothy had a lot of plates and closures going on, and we had people cutting through different parts of the neighborhood, and ended up causing some issues with local traffic issues. is this only closed during the day when, during work time, or is it permanently closed for how long? Like,
Yeah, so as I had mentioned earlier, there's two types of road closures. So there's those more temporary, during the day construction, plate put over at night, traffic continue to flow. And then there's the 3 road closures that we specifically point out here. Those would be a little bit longer duration. So it's kind of tied to the Section 6F work. So we will be in that particular area ranging between 15 months and less, and depending on where exactly we're located. So for the Florence Avenue location, I suspect the duration of that would be somewhere between the 6 to 12-month range. The middle one would be shorter duration, and then the one that's not a road closure though, but that Florence Avenue particular one would be somewhere around, it should be no more than 12 months. And the same with the Litzinger Road one.
so 6 to 12 months, there may be closed section of Litzinger right there in the middle there, and then and would those closed sections wouldn't happen at the same time, because there's no way that the folks that are on Litzinger and Mary there, how would they be closed at the same time, or just you would do 6 to 12 months closure on one, and then you'd move and 6 to 12 months on the other?
There is potential that they could both be closed at the same time. You can take Mary Avenue south to the Florence Avenue, and then they could make a turn to the west, and then go down Florence to Keystone, to Kentland, and then up to Litzinger. I can't quite speak to how the contractor is going to work at this point in time. I don't think that they will fully overlap the entire time, but I don't think that they will both be, we won't wait the full 6 months to 12 months and then do it a second time. We want to have the tunneling completed within 12 to 15 months. So, if that helps.
If I may, though, if they're closed at the same time, the only way in to this entire neighborhood is off of Brentwood Boulevard then.
Yeah, right. And those areas that kind of Kentland and that area, it's kind of a maze. And so you're going to have people, very upset people driving quickly trying to get through, and there's a lot of kids in that area. So, and there's no sidewalks on Kentland. And if the tunnel or if the trail is blocked in any way that allows, where people the pedestrians tend to use this trail for schools and everything, I mean, we're going to have to be real cognizant of when those are shut down.
I agree with you that would be a concern. I first want to mention that when we met with BOLA a week or so ago, Eric both brought up concerns about access down Rogers Parkway. So we're looking at an option that would allow a 5-foot path on the side of those purple shaded areas. So
Okay.
that people can continue to walk the length of the parkway, number one. And number two, as Aaron mentioned earlier, we will have a traffic plan that will be submitted by the contractor. If you have requirements that you want us to meet, we would need to know those so that we can include them in the structure of the specifications to pass on to the contractor so that they will be met during the construction process.
Yeah, and I mean, best laid plans, when they get into action, sometimes don't. We've had issues where we have a traffic plan, but then, people tend to just flow like water and do what they want, right? So those are definitely concerns that I have. I'm glad to see that Rogers Parkway isn't going to be torn up completely, that it's just some isolated areas that'll be tunneled. That should help with the disturbance as much as possible.
Anyone else before I go? Yeah, Nancy.
So I represent the areas that were, I guess this is green. I had the blue and orange sections on the west part of the city. Are there roads that are going to be closed there? Is there detail like you have in the green section in those sections that are now outlined in orange and purple about street closures and
Sure.
how that's going to impact that neighborhood?
Yeah, so those, at this point in time, it's anticipated that those types of road closures would be more of those daily road closures and not more of the longer duration type road closures. Can't make any guarantees, but at this point in time, that's what I know.
Okay, thank you.
So going back to the right,
Over here?
yeah,
Okay.
the green area. So you said that the overflow that's going to be removed when you lift that box up, that goes into the Deer Creek. Is that large tunnel that was bored underneath that goes all the way up?
I'll try to explain it. So the diversion structure that's constructed, that concrete box that I was talking about where they open the hatch. There we go. So this diversion structure that's constructed currently as a part of Phase 1, what you see here is that concrete pad that's out there. And then that's the photo on the left. And you can kind of see where the manhole that I've got called out there, and then you got the diversion structure. So the photo on the right shows the diversion structure in that same manhole, so you can kind of get some reference there. You can see the hatches that are there. And so the intent is to open those hatches. There is an elevated channel that goes through there, and that's where the typical flow will continue to go straight through that diversion structure, through that elevated channel, and to the Deer Creek sanitary tunnel that was mentioned earlier that MSD worked with the city of Brentwood through that partnership. That's how the flow typically goes. The part that's going to occur here is that when this Phase 2 project is complete, the existing sewers that are being used for both stormwater and sanitary flow, and that big pipe that dumps into the creek, that will no longer have both sanitary and stormwater. It will just be stormwater. So that will continue to operate as it does. What changes is that this diversion structure will have currently that elevated channel has a metal plate on top of it, so that flow cannot, right now it's constructed so that there is no flow. When this project is complete, flow will be able to continue to this diversion structure. The flow will normally go straight through, and when it gets to a certain level, that metal plate will have been removed, and flow can go over that channel. It'll drop to the lower portion of that channel, and it will flow out a different pipe towards that Deer Creek sanitary tunnel that I believe you are asking about. So that's how this system all works. And in both instances, that flow will then go to the Lime wastewater treatment facility that MSD owns and be treated before being released into the environment. So the difference is that it'll be treated flow that's returning back to the environment, whereas currently we have a CSO condition.
Okay.
For your question?
Yeah, it does. And then going back to the road closure at Florence, so the purple dot. So you will not, trying to wrap my head around what, you would not be able to get to the western Florence coming up from Manchester at all when that closure is happening, I'm assuming. And we're thinking that's about a year. So if you're coming up Dorothy from Manchester, you would not ever be able to take a left during that road closure for potentially a year.
I believe you are correct.
And then just to make sure I really understand, so when the green dot is closed, then, somebody who lives along Mary, like Alderman Gould, will have to come down Mary, then go west on Florence, back all the way around, and then, again, the only way out would be Brentwood Boulevard. So if they're going south, if somebody's going south on Brentwood Boulevard, they would have to try and make a left at that point, which is tough.
That is correct.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but do we need to think about like a temporary road across Rogers Parkway at some point?
Would like to take an opportunity to go back and look at the construction in this area now that we understand what your concerns are about road closures, and see if there are any modifications that can take place to ease your concerns about street access.
Okay, and then on, those little cul-de-sacs there, you have Radley and Covington. Will residents be able to, will you do one side of the road only so they would be able to access during the construction, their homes, their driveways?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I had. Yeah, Nancy?
Okay, so I have questions about all the, like, trees and all these sections. So Radley, Covington, St. Clair, Hatton, Park Ridge, like, in all those areas, are you digging up the street and the lawn, the tree lawn, and are we losing, like, all the trees?
If you note in the board docs, it calls out 125 trees.
So you are losing a number of trees. And MSD uses an equation to reimburse the city based on the size of tree. And we've provided this information to Eric, I believe, and also a set of plans which show exactly which trees will be removed as part of this project in the right-of-way.
Will drastically transform many streets, which has happened already on some, I mean, it needs to be done, but it totally changes the look of our community.
I have seen that happen on my street in Holly Hills in the city of St. Louis. I just received a new gas service and water service down our street, and the beautiful trees that overarched the street are now gone. Yeah.
So I guess then, Eric, you have that, and will we see that at some point, the tree lawn removal map?
Yeah, what we got is a 60% design, which includes calls out all the trees that were pulled or are going to be removed. So we've done a couple things with staff. We've talked to the urban forester, and so I think there was 3 or 4 trees that are supposed to be planted in those areas upcoming. Obviously, we're not going to plant those now, and we're looking at maybe other places we can move trees to kind of as we lose these trees. It's not the best case scenario, obviously. We hate to see that, but I'm not sure what else can be done at this time.
Thank you.
But, so Eric, are there any, knowing that this is 60% plans, I mean, designs now, are there any trees that are identified, like we had on, a however many year-old, 100-year-old oak tree on White,
Ribbon
right,
tree,
that
old
ended
ribbon
up
tree.
having to be removed? You hate to remove those really old established canopies that still have a long life left in them. Is there anything that we can do now to identify certain trees that if the design shifted a little bit, we'd be able to save it?
We are in the process of doing that evaluation. As far as shifting, I think that's probably a question for MSD, because I don't know, there's water lines on those street, there's electric lines. I think
There's
they
other
have to worry
other
about all
utilities
those as
that we have to
well.
worry about, right?
It seems to me, and I'll defer to Aaron as well, it seems like most of the time they try to stay to one side or the other. So you basically lose the one side of the street where the other seems to be okay.
Okay.
I would agree with Eric.
And then I have a question. So the Webster Groves Trunk E-Sanitary, where construction is in 2026, that, if you go to slide 4, I guess, that borders a wetland project that we're working on. And obviously, I don't know what kind of plan you have for that area. It follows Deer Creek, obviously.
We will be bringing a different group of MSD
different?
engineers
Okay,
to meet with Public Works Committee. Eric Stacy Arnold with Deer Creek Watershed Alliance, and I met with them yesterday.
okay.
So we're looking at dates in, I believe, September, October, November, December, January. No, not September, October, November, December, January. Tentative dates to come before
To
the
speak to that.
committee.
Okay.
Similar presentation.
Okay, and then likewise, is it I guess the salmon colored, the lime, on the end that's by Brentwood Park?
A public I&I reduction project.
Yeah. Do we know, I mean, it looks, does it just stop right there where the Brentwood
It
corner
does.
is, or does it extend forward a little
No,
bit more?
it does stop at the Brentwood border.
Okay, so we don't anticipate the Brentwood Park sports complex being,
Impacted, no, we do not.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you both for coming, giving us all this information.
Thank you.
I believe, Aaron, in your email to us today, you indicated that you would like a letter from the city. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
By September 8th, I believe?
Yes, please. So we met with the city of Brentwood, including Bola, Eric, Whitney, and Dan, August 17th, and talked about this a little bit. We submitted the 60% design plans back in March, and we're working with them to provide us a review letter that basically, provides any requirements that the city of Brentwood would like to include in the contract documents that the contractor receives. So with that, things such as, a lot of the things that we talked about today. So, pavement requirements, dust control, traffic plans, things that we're talking about here today that you would like us to consider, and that the contractor is going to be required to follow the documents that we provide, but if we can point out to them anything specific that you guys want to see, then that's what this letter would be. So that is the
There's an
letter.
example of a similar agreement in your board packet called MSD Project Agreement for Russell Avenue. So we are beginning to build a similar document that mirrors that, that also includes things we've heard tonight and things that are referenced on the 2 meeting notes. So if you have other thoughts that you don't see reflected on there, if you could send that to us so we can include it. Ultimately, if their deadline is September 8th, then
Quick.
yeah, we would probably bring it to the board next week. But would we have an opportunity to amend that, maybe September 19th? So we could, if there's
Yeah.
need to amend it again?
Yeah, so we're working towards our 90% design right now. So we will be completing that not this month, September. And then we're moving into the easement acquisition period. And during that time, there's going to be changes that are made, and there'll be modifications that will be allowed. So we could certainly, take the updated letter towards the end of the month as well. And we can continue to work with you as we work towards the final design, which will be completed up after the easement acquisition period is over. So there is time.
So in terms of those requirements, what, just the art of the possible, I mean, is, traffic access to these neighborhoods something that we could add in there as a requirement?
Yeah, I believe so. And if there's something that we certainly need to talk about further, then we can work through, a meeting to talk through what we can and what we
We
can
learned
do.
a lot from the White Avenue Swim Club, Hanley Manchester Road. So Dan has identified some of the challenges that we faced during that time, and that was why Chief Spees and Chief Bernie were here earlier, because we want their input as well, and certainly all of yours too.
Is tree relocation an option?
So during the easement acquisition period, I know that's a lot of those details get discussed then. I'm sure if MSD wants to talk further to that, but I think, there's a possibility, but I don't know to what extent.
Again, the MSD will reimburse the city for tree loss based on the size of tree. Definitely walk through that calculation with you, and it would actually be our right-of-way agent at that point in time. And we will provide you with money that you could plant trees anywhere you would like. But we are not in the habit of
Okay.
I did have one question about coordination with other utilities. We talked about, that changing design isn't always easy because you have all these other utilities. I'm not sure if you know, but the Mary Avenue and actually Keystone, Kentland, Covington Court, all of those areas, Radley, they are due for Missouri American Water new mains. I know this because my house, which is 2517 Mary Avenue, right across from your tunnel there, had 3 water main breaks last year. So they're supposed to be expediting and having Mary Avenue, the full main from the corner of Litzinger all the way down to Florence, completely replaced, and that will be in the street and not in the yard easement anymore. Do you guys coordinate? I don't know if that's going to happen between now and next year, and then the following year we're going to have all of the construction for, for this. I'm curious on coordinating with, especially in this area, because I don't think just the Mary Avenue, I think the other, areas that you have work going on in are going to be affected by the water main replacement as well.
Certainly. As a part of this design project, we, in addition to reaching out to you guys and other stakeholders, we also reach out to all the major utilities in the area. So we've reached out to Ameren, Missouri American Water, AT&T, Charter, or Spectrum, Laclede Gas. I might be missing one in there, but we have reached out to them and we've heard information from them all. They provide the feedback that they do, and we certainly work with them, and we continue to work with them as we move forward at this design. I don't know if they would disclose all of that information that you provided, so anything that you have to offer in that regard would be certainly welcome.
Well, I mean, what they told me last year is they expedited it. They hope to go out to bid this year and get the construction done pretty soon. So, because they recognize that it's a failing system. It's just a lot of construction in this area, obviously, but necessary. Like Alderwoman Tice said, it's necessary. The other one more question I had. So the replacement of the sanitary lines that you have here, you don't see any need to go into. Are they going into the tie-ins into each individual home at all, or is there disruption on the residential properties that go along the trunks that you're putting in?
So generally speaking, this is not a private sewer project. It's mostly a public sewer project. We're intending to get the public storm sewers get the public storm sewers in their own set of pipes and the public sanitary sewers as their own set of pipes. There are there are house laterals connected to a lot of these pipes. So most of the time we're going to be utilizing those existing sewers as much as possible to become sanitary, which means that there shouldn't need to be any kind of disruption to those house laterals. There are some that are going to need to be redirected because it's a combined system, which means that currently the system takes both sets of water. So, but generally speaking, there won't be a whole lot of that. We have been working with a couple of the property owners at this point in time, and those particular locations will be identified on the drawings. But it isn't similar to maybe some other projects you're used to where there's a PIR component or a private inflow reduction component. This project does not have that specific component with it.
Thank you.
Just one more question for Bola and Dan, I guess, who's on, but I mean, we should overlay this with our stormwater master plan and see if there's any dots that line up with these, and maybe that's a way we
I'd
can.
like to talk about that because we did discuss it and we provided them the stormwater master plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just very quickly, we discussed it a couple of weeks ago. It's the Gonzalez Stormwater Report, I believe. And I think, certainly we're interested in hearing what you have to say.
So we're looking at areas specifically within the whole city that aligns with this.
Yeah.
And looking for an opportunity to partner to get some work done.
Okay. All right, great. All right, anyone else? Any other comments? Okay. All right, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Patricia. All right, we'll move on to the next citizen comment. Anyone else?
One thing I didn't hear within their presentation that I'd like you guys to ask would be, there's a lot of homes impacted at the bottoms of these streets, especially on Dorothy, and I'm sure on Ruth, going down the line, where they have overcharges in these large rain events. And I was excited when that big tunnel was coming through to see, maybe something was gonna happen, and I talked to the people working on it, and they said, well, they're not really hooking it up right now, it'll be later down the road. So can we assume that at the end of this 15 to 18 months, this will be hooked up, running, and providing relief for the residents down there?
I don't know if we,
I don't know if we know the answer to that.
hold on, somebody's taking proactively.
I like you said, it depends. Hi, I'm Jennifer Welsh with MSD. It depends. I think if you have, and you're building storm sewers to a design storm, we will meet those design events. But as we've all experienced in the last 2-3 years, there's been some major storms that are outside those design events, which will still have impacts and overflows that'll happen. The sanitary sewer system will be designed to a specific design event. We should be eliminating basement backups due to sanitary flow, but stormwater and overland flow due to heavy rains that are outside of our design storm will probably still impact the area. The stormwater will be moved off of those sanitary sewers, so they will be sanitary only. But if those basement backups are due, if they're due to stormwater events, if you have a basement drain, outside that's still going, it could still overflow.
Any other citizen comment? Okay, seeing no new business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.